Hey, have you ever gone to your favorite fast food spot and thought, didn't this used to cost less? If you bought a Big Mac sandwich in the US back in 2000, it likely cost you around $2.25. Fast forward to 2025, and that same sandwich is now about $5.79. It doesn't mean the burger got 10 times tastier. Similarly, a Starbucks cafe latte that was $2 in 2000 now costs $3.50 in 2025. For the same coffee cup or even smaller. What's going on? Are these places just raising prices for no reason? Not really. The real reason is something called inflation. But don't worry. We're going to explain it in a fun, easy way using things we all understand. Food and drinks. By the end of this video, you'll know what inflation means, why prices go up, what causes it, and how you can deal with it in your everyday life. Let's jump in. Session 1. What is inflation? Let's start simple. Inflation means prices go up over time, and your money doesn't buy as much as it used to. Example, in 2000, $1 could buy a slice of pizza. In 2024, that same slice might cost $4. The pizza didn't change, but the value of your money did. That's inflation. It makes things more expensive as time goes on. So what actually causes this? Let's look at the first reason. Reason 1. Demand pull inflation. Imagine this. A popular influencer shares a video of a brand new spicy chicken sandwich. Everyone wants to try it. The restaurant usually makes 200 sandwiches a day, but now 500 people show up. Since they don't have enough for everyone, the price goes up from $5 to $8. That's called demand pull inflation. When too many people want something, but there's not enough of it. So the price goes up. Real story. In 2019, Popeyes released a chicken sandwich. It got so popular, people were reselling it online for $20. See what happens when demand goes wild? Let's look at that next. Reason 2. Cost push inflation. Now imagine, you own a taco truck. Every week, you buy tortillas, beef, cheese, lettuce, and tomatoes. Then a drought hits. Farmers can't grow as many veggies, so the cost of vegetable goes way up. Your taco used to cost $1.50 to make. Now it costs $2. So you raise the taco's price from $3 to $3.50 to keep earning money. That's called cost push inflation, when the cost to make something goes up, and so does the price to buy it. Real story. In 2021, California had a big drought. Lettuce prices rose more than 35%. And many restaurants raised prices or stopped selling salads. Reason 3. Built-in inflation. Meet Mia. She works at a bakery and earns $2,500 a month. But everything around here is getting more expensive. Rent, groceries, even bus rides. So Mia asks for a raise. Her manager says yes, and now she earns $3,000. But now the bakery has higher expenses. To keep making money, they raise the price of their chocolate cake from $20 to $25. This is built-in inflation, when workers need higher pay and businesses raise prices to cover the new costs. It becomes a cycle. Real story. In 2022 and 2023, many companies raised wages to help workers, but that also caused prices to rise even more. Now, let's look at money supply. Reason 4. Too much money, not enough stuff. Now imagine a town with one coffee shop. It sells 100 cups of coffee a day for $2 each. Everyone has just enough money to buy one cup. Then one day, everyone gets $50 for free. People now want to buy 2 or 3 cups each, but the shop still only has 100 cups. Since more people want coffee, the price goes up to $3, then $4. This is what happens when there's too much money and not enough stuff to buy. Prices rise fast. Real story. In 2020-2021, the U.S. gave people stimulus checks during the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, supply chains slowed and stores had fewer products. With more money to spend but less stuff to buy, prices for groceries and essentials rose quickly, causing noticeable inflation for everyday items like meat, milk, and paper goods. Now that we know how inflation happens with demand, supply, wages, and money supply, let's see how we measure it. Session 2. How inflation is measured. The most common way is through the Consumer Price Index, CPI. CPI tracks the average change in prices of a basket of everyday items over time. Let's take a simple example to understand how much the cost of living is rising over time. Example. Let's say in 2024, the prices of common items are bread, $3, milk, $4, eggs, $5, candle, $8, Netflix subscription, $10, total equals $30. Now in 2025, prices go up slightly. Bread, $3.30 30 milk, $4.20, eggs, $5.30, candle, $8.10, Netflix still $10. New total equals $30.90. That's a 3% increase in the total cost of the basket. So, the CPI for that year shows a 3% inflation rate. It doesn't mean every single item increased, just that on average, prices went up. But here's what's important. While CPI is an average, some essential items may rise faster than others. That's why even if inflation is reported at 3%, you might feel like it's 10%, especially if food, fuel, or rent are eating into your budget. Session 3. Is inflation bad? Let's break it down. When people hear the word inflation, they often assume it's a bad thing. Prices going up? Shrinking value of money? It sounds scary. But here's the truth. Inflation is not always bad. It depends on how much prices are rising and how fast. Let's break it down into 3 types of inflation conditions. 1. Healthy inflation. 2. Deflation. 3. Hyperinflation. Condition 1. Healthy inflation. A sign of growth. A small, steady inflation rate, typically around 2% to 3% per year, is actually a positive sign of a healthy economy. Why? Because it encourages people to spend now rather than wait, knowing that prices will rise a bit over time. That helps businesses grow, hire more workers, and keep the economy moving. Example. Imagine someone named Sarah is planning to buy a laptop. If she expects prices to rise in a few months, she'll likely buy it now. That purchase helps the store earn money, hire more staff, and expand. That's healthy inflation in action. Condition 2. Deflation. When prices fall too much. Now, let's look at the opposite, deflation, which is when prices consistently fall over time. At first, it might sound like a good thing. Who doesn't want cheaper prices? But in reality, deflation can harm the economy. When people expect prices to drop further, they delay buying. Businesses then make less money, which leads to layoffs and wage cuts. That means even less spending. It becomes a dangerous spiral of falling prices and rising unemployment. Real-life example. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, deflation devastated the U.S. economy. Prices fell so fast that farmers in places like Oklahoma couldn't afford to sell their crops. Wheat prices were so low that harvesting became more expensive than just leaving it in the fields. That's deflation at its worst. It crushes consumers and producers alike. Condition 3. Hyperinflation, when prices go wild. At the extreme other end is hyperinflation, when prices rise more than 50% per month. It usually happens when a country prints too much money without enough goods or services in the economy. The result? Money loses value faster than people can spend it. Real-life example. A powerful case is Venezuela in the 2010s. Due to excessive money printing and weak economic policies, prices were doubling every few weeks. People needed wheelbarrows of cash just to buy groceries. The currency became so worthless, some used it as firewood or wallpaper. Families would wake up with enough money for food, but by afternoon, it wasn't enough to buy even bread. That's what happens when inflation spirals out of control. Final takeaway. Balance is everything. So, is inflation bad? Only when it's too high or too low. A little inflation helps economies grow, but deflation slows everything down, and hyperinflation destroys trust in money altogether. That's why central banks aim for a sweet spot, usually around 2% inflation per year, to keep the economy steady, jobs flowing, and money valuable. How do we control inflation? Inflation doesn't just rise or fall on its own. It's influenced by powerful decision-makers who guide the economy. There are two main players who try to control inflation. 1. Central banks, like the U.S. Federal Reserve. 2. Governments through their decisions on taxes and spending. Let's look at how each one helps keep inflation under control, using examples you can relate to. Central banks, using interest rates and money supply. What is a central bank? Think of it like the economy's control center. In the U.S., that's the Federal Reserve, or the Fed. It doesn't make our day-to-day purchases, but it controls big-picture things like interest rates and the supply of money in the economy. Let's look at two tools. Tool number 1, interest rates. What are interest rates? When you borrow money, like taking a loan, you have to pay back principal amount and pay interest for using money. So the Fed controls how high or low the interest rate should be. If inflation is too high, the Fed will increase interest rates. Example, imagine losing a car with a loan. If interest goes from 3% to 6%, the car becomes more expensive to finance. So fewer people borrow, fewer people spend, businesses raise prices less, inflation cools down. If inflation is too low, economy is too slow, the Fed will lower interest rates. Example, now imagine the car loan interest drops from 6% to 2%. More people can afford to borrow and spend, more business activity, the economy grows, prices go up a bit, healthy inflation. Tool number 2, money supply. The Fed can also add or remove money in the system through banks using open market operations, basically buying or selling government bonds. Example, if the Fed buys bonds, it puts more money into the economy, like pouring fuel into a car engine. More money available to spend, inflation rises, if needed. If the Fed sells bonds, it takes money out, like applying the brakes, slows spending, lowers inflation. Government, taxes, and spending, fiscal policy. The government also plays a big role. They can influence inflation through fiscal policy, which means adjusting how much they tax people and how much they spend on things like schools, roads, and healthcare. If inflation is too high, the government might reduce spending or increase taxes. Example, imagine the government was planning to build a $1 billion highway. If they cancel or delay that, fewer workers are hired, less money circulates, and inflation slows down. Or if they increase taxes, people have less money to spend, demand drops, prices go down. If inflation is too low, slow economy, the government might lower taxes or spend more to stimulate activity. Example, during a recession, the government might cut taxes or send stimulus checks. People have more money, they spend more, businesses grow, prices rise slowly, healthy inflation returns. Team effort, central banks, plus government. Central banks and governments work together, kind of like two parents trying to keep a house in order. One controls how much is spent, the other adjusts how easy it is to borrow. Their goal? To keep inflation just right. Not too high, not too low, so the economy stays healthy. But even if they do their job well, what can you do to protect your money when prices rise? Let's talk about that next. How do you protect yourself from inflation? We've talked about how inflation is managed by big institutions like the Fed and the government. But here's the truth. Even if they do everything right, inflation can still affect you personally. Prices slowly go up every year. Groceries, gas, rent, and even Netflix. That means your money doesn't buy as much as it used to. So, how can you make sure your money keeps its value? Let's break it down. What not to do. Just let it sit. If you leave your money in a piggy bank or a basic savings account that earns almost no interest, it may feel safe, but in reality, your money is slowly losing power. Example, In 2014, a basket of groceries, bread, milk, eggs, butter, and cereal, cost around $100. By 2024, the same items cost $165. That's a 65% increase over 10 years. So, if you had saved $100 in cash, it wouldn't be enough to buy the same groceries anymore. Your money didn't disappear, but it now buys less. This is what inflation does. It slowly eats away at your money's value unless it's growing too. What to do? Grow your money faster than inflation. To protect yourself, you need to invest your money in things that grow in value over time. Here are some smart options, with easy examples. 1. Stocks. Growing your money over time. In 2014, John invested $1,000 in Apple stock. By 2024, that $1,000 grew to around $9,000. While inflation made prices go up, John's investment grew much faster, meaning his money gained value instead of losing it. Lesson: stocks are one of the best long-term tools to beat inflation, but they can go up and down in the short term. 2. Real estate. Homes and rent usually rise. Maya bought a small house in 2014 for $150,000. By 2024, it was worth $220,000, and the monthly rent she charged had increased by 40%. Her property grew in value, and her rental income rose along with inflation, protecting her money and creating extra income. Lesson: real estate is a long-term investment that usually rises with inflation. 3. Gold, a safe option in uncertain times. Nancy also bought $1,000 worth of gold in 2014. By 2024, it was worth around $1,800. While it didn't grow as fast as stocks, gold held its value and even increased, especially during economic uncertainty. Lesson: gold is a solid hedge against inflation, especially when markets are shaky. 4. Tips. Inflation-protected bonds. Chris bought $1,000 in TIPS, Treasury inflation-protected securities, in 2014. By 2024, his investment grew to about $1,250 because TIPS are designed to adjust with inflation each year. Lesson: TIPS don't offer big gains, but they're safe and help your money keep up with inflation. Let's look at how different people handled their money from 2014 to 2024 and who came out ahead of inflation. In 2014, each person started with an investment. Now let's fast forward to 2024 and compare the results. John invested $1,000 in Apple stock. 10 years later, it grew to $9,000. That's a huge win. He didn't just beat inflation, he crushed it. Maya purchased a small apartment for $150,000. 10 years later, it was worth $220,000, and she earned rising rental income along the way. That's real estate doing its job, growing with inflation and creating passive income. Nancy bought $1,000 worth of gold in 2014. By 2024, it was worth $1,800. Not explosive growth, but she stayed safely ahead of inflation. Chris put $1,000 into TIPS, or inflation-protected bonds. In 2024, his investment was worth $1,250. A safe, slow grower, but it kept up with inflation, just as designed. And finally, someone who just saved their $1,000 in cash. In 2024, it's still $1,000, but it buys a lot less. No growth, and inflation quietly ate away at its value. So, what's the takeaway? Saving is important, but if you want to stay ahead, your money has to grow faster than prices rise. Whether it's stocks, real estate, gold, or inflation-protected bonds, investing wisely is your best defense against inflation. Final summary. Mastering inflation. Let's recap everything we've covered. Inflation is when prices rise and the value of money decreases. A small amount is healthy, but too much or too little can cause big problems. We measure inflation using CPI, Consumer Price Index. It's managed through monetary policy, interest rates, money supply, and fiscal policy, taxes, spending. You can protect yourself by investing in assets that outpaced inflation. So, the next time you see your grocery bill going up or hear the news mention inflation, don't panic. Just remember, inflation is a tool, a signal, and a challenge, but it's also something you can understand and plan for. Like what you learned? Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more simple money lessons. Let's make your money smarter. Together.